The continuation of the critique of Occam's razor. Part 4. Occam's unjustifiable leap of faith. Let's divide the world into two parts, the known and the unknown. Although I would very much doubt whether the knowns are truly known. Occam's razor is constantly dealing with the unknown. And whenever we choose a mechanism to deal with the unknown, it is important that we make sure it can handle it. The problem with what Occam's razor is doing is that it assumes every unknown thing as the simplest possible, unless evidence shows otherwise. But that does not account for the possibility of us not having the tools to discover the necessary evidence needed for the solution to the unknown. For example, before the development of technology, the creation of a mind would have been an idea that Occam's razor would have deemed unreasonable, since its complexity is great and the evidence for it was once almost non-existent. So who's to say that the same doesn't apply to any other idea? Who is to say that in the future we will not have different kinds of tools that will help us understand complex truths that are yet inconceivable, just like with artificial intelligence in the past? This is Occam's leap of faith, a faith totally based on the present, totally dependent on our senses. This is what I would deem a truly unreasonable leap of faith. Part 5. Occam's razor as a defense mechanism. If Occam's razor is as obviously wrong as I describe it to be, why is it so popular? Why haven't more people seen this fallacy? Well, the truth is that Occam's razor is great at giving scientists a safety net. It allows them not to go down the rabbit hole of examining every single solution to every single problem, because it simply judges every single non-provable choice by a single criterion and then claims to have solved the issue. And for someone who is not keen on philosophizing, this would be great. Occam's razor is utterly convenient, but it is still wrong. Just because something protects us doesn't make it perfect. But this does raise the question, what can we replace Occam's razor with? Because we have to replace it with something, otherwise we will simply always fall in the rabbit hole of skepticism and never go anywhere. This is where part 6 comes in. Bayesian Reasoning. Yes, Bayesian reasoning is the best replacement for Occam's razor. To put it simply, I regard Bayesian reasoning as the act of believing in something based on the probability of its presuppositions being true. These presuppositions can be judged on many different levels of analysis, empirical, intuitive, logical, etc., or all the levels of analysis at once. The important thing here is that Bayesian reasoning is a tool that helps us choose between results after contemplating them, while Occam's razor makes us choose a certain result regardless of our contemplation. Of course, I do acknowledge the fact that Bayesian reasoning has certain downsides. For example, it can be quite subjective to choose between opinions without a 100% objective, clear-cut law of logic, hence why Occam's idea is called a razor. However, that does not mean that we should invent a clear-cut law which does not stand for truth simply because of our inability to come up with an objective logical path. I do not believe that we can ever close ourselves into a specific method of learning truth and then call that method absolute. The best thing to do is to allow an infinite number of ways towards truth, and then to evaluate how probable a proposition is, depending on the culmination of all the ways used. Some methods are more valid than others, depending on how sound their reasoning is. And so one has to combine all methods in order to decide what to believe in. It is better to allow truth to flow in the air and let those who can grasp it do so, than to cover up a lie with the curtain of truth just so that it is convenient for everyone. Part 7. Faith as the center of reasoning. Faith is the ability to believe the claim towards truth that is most reasonable without falling into skepticism. In other words, if you have 5 ways of explaining a mystery and one of these 5 ways has a 95% probability of being true and the other 4 cover the 5%, you have to put your faith in the first way. Assuming, of course, that all methods of approaching the mystery have been calculated. And the reason you have to do that is because there is no way of advancing to more complicated truths unless you assume your basic truths as actual and real. For example, do you exist? If we were to take evidence, personal empirical experience, logic, intuition, and other reasoning methods, almost all point to the idea that yes, you do exist. However, a skeptic could very well doubt that and say, well, you can never be 100% sure about anything. There is always the possibility of you being wrong, no matter how small the possibility is. And yes, there is always that 0.01% chance of a claim not being true. However, if you do not accept your existence as fact, you cannot think about anything else as fact. But there are facts in the world. Even the idea of there being no facts is supposed to be a factual statement. In simple terms, there is truth out there. And if one is to touch that truth, he needs faith. Maybe he doesn't touch the exact truth that he is looking for, but he will surely land closer to the truth after putting his faith in the 99% than he would if he chose not to put his faith anywhere. Occam's razor attempts to capture the 100% by closing itself to the method of simplicity. Bayesian reasoning tells us to give a thorough look into all methods and put our faith in the truth that is most well supported, until there is any new reason to reevaluate that belief. And of course, new things happen all the time, so most of your opinions will change over time, but you can only capture a large amount of the truth, let's say, as a totality in the universe by allowing yourself to put faith in those things that capture the largest amount of truth. And by doing that individually, you then create a net of truths that are highly probable of actually touching truth. And when you die knowing that you came closer to truth than everybody else. If you did that perfectly, of course, which you will probably not, but everyone tries as best they can. Religious people try, scientists try, many people try. But Occam's razor is the ultimate enemy of truth.